Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and we're looking at the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, and we're up to verse 13. And this is the flight into Egypt. Again, we begin with a genitive absolute, anakoresantes de auton, idoangelos kuriou phainetai kat oner toi Iosef legon. Egerthes paralebe ton paidion kai ten matera autou kai fuge es aigupton kai isthieke heos an epo soi. Melega horaidas seten to paidion tu apolesai auto. So genitive absolute, anakorio is this verb we just had before in the earlier verses, to withdraw, anakorio. In the Middle Ages you had people called anchorites and anchoresses, who were people that withdrew from society and to spend their lives in contemplation and prayer. They were called anchorites, and it comes from this anakorio, to withdraw. So they, when they had withdrawn, when they had left, because they were, this is referring, I think, here to the Magi. So when they had withdrawn, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream, kat ona, to Joseph legon, saying, Egerthes, having got up from egero, paralebe, take with you, take beside, that's the sense of the para here, ton paidion, the child, literally the boy, and his mother, kai fuge, and flee into Egypt, kai isti. Now that's the imperative from the verb to be, the verb eimi. So be, so we'd say remain. Greek says be there, so remain there, heos an, until, plus the subjunctive, I might speak to you. For an explanatory gar here for Herod, mele is about satan, to seek. Now, of course, in classical Greek, mele takes a future infinitive. In biblical Greek, it generally, well, it can, but generally doesn't. It just takes a present infinitive. So for Herod is about to seek the child, to plus the infinitive for purpose, for the purpose of destroying it. Neuter agreeing with topaidion. This is from apolumi, to destroy. And he, the often you don't translate necessarily by but just and. So, and he, Egerthes, having got up, he took with him the boy and his mother, nuktos, genitive of time, by night, kai anakoresen, again this anakorio again, he withdrew into Egypt. Kai ein eke hiostes teleutes heredu hinaplatherai torethen hupakurioudia tu prophetu legontes ex aiguptu ekalase ton huion mu. So he withdrew into Egypt, and he was there. We would say he remained there, but Greek just says he was there until, plus a genitive, the teleute is the end of something, so hence the death of Herod, in order that, and now we get this fairly stock phrase in Matthew, you saw it back in chapter 1, Torethen apokurio dia tu prophetu legontes, and there's various variations. Sometimes the hupakurio is left out, sometimes the name of the prophet's inserted, but the basic structure and word order is pretty much the same every time, in order that that which had been said by the Lord through the prophet saying might be fulfilled. Ex aiguptu ekalase ton huion mu. From Egypt I called my son. The quotation here is from Hosea 11:1, but it's not the Septuagint version, and the Septuagint version differs somewhat considerably from what we get here. next little section is on the so-called slaughter of the innocents, and it's regarded by many scholars as fanciful. There's no historical evidence for this whatsoever, and you can imagine that if Herod did kill all the children under 2 years of age, there'd be more than just an outcry from the population, Roman soldiers notwithstanding. Moreover, we get no reference to this in Josephus at all. If it happened, Josephus would certainly have recorded it. It may simply be a story that's modelled on the slaughter of the children of Israel in the story of Exodus, where Pharaoh is warned of the birth of a rival to his throne. And it's not mentioned in Luke either, I don't think. So this is an funny addition here that is probably more theological than historical. Toti heroides idon hoti en epaikthei hupatron magon ethumothe lian kai apostelas enelin pantas tus paidus tus in Bethlehem kai in pasi tois horiois autes apo dietus kai katotero kataton chronon hon acribosin paraton magon. And here we get our Lieblingswort again, Toti, then, that Matthew's very fond of. But that then Herod, having seen that, now this is an interesting word. All Greek words are interesting, but some more than others. This is from empaisto, which is a good classical word. It's connected with pais, a child. So it means to play a trick on somebody, almost a childish trick, but would have been the original sense of it, but here it just means to trick. And this is the aorist passive. So the zeta, it turns into a chi before the theta here, in the aorist passive form from empaisto. So the root stem would have had a delta, and that gets, well, it's not clear what the root stem, it could have been a kappa or a gamma, perhaps, heaven knows. But the form here is aorist passive from empaisto, if you're looking it up. So because he had been, so having seen that he'd been tricked or fooled by the Magi, ethumothe, he was angry, lian exceedingly. It's another, well, you can use lian in this way as an adverb, so he was exceedingly angry. And having sent, apostelas, and understand having sent out his soldiers, it says. An helen is from an hyreo, and hyreo and compounds of it, hyreo is to take. And it's a bit like our rather ghastly modern expression to take someone out. It means to kill, and this is a very old usage of this verb hyreo. It goes back to Homer, in fact. So having given orders, apostelas, having sent forth, he killed all of the children in Bethlehem, all of the male children in Bethlehem, and in all the horiois, the borders of it, the children apo di etus. This is from this is di, and etos is years, so this is like 2 years. So from 2 years, kai katotero, and below. So all those who are 2 years or younger. Kataton chronon, according to the time which, there's that akriboo verb again, he ascertained from the Magi. And again we get this set phrase here, modified slightly. We get our tote, no subjunctive this time, and at that time the word was fulfilled through Jeremiah the prophet saying. And you can see up the top here, in that earlier verse, you see how it maps across. It's very similar. Use that same verb pleroo, torathen, and then sometimes you don't get the hupakurio, we just get the dia. Sometimes you get the prophet, sometimes the prophet's named, as we have here through Jeremiah, the prophet saying. Now, verse 18 is, again, it's a quotation from Jeremiah 31:15 in the Hebrew text, but it's, I think, 38:15 in the Septuagint. The voice was heard, aorist passive from akuo, in Rama. Klauthmos, this is connected with klio, to weep. So this is weeping, kai odurmos, literally pain or anguish perhaps, and much anguish. Rachel weeping for her children, and she was not willing, she did not want, paraklethenai, from parakaleo, aorist passive infinitive, to be consoled, hoti uk asin, because they were not, that is, because her children were no longer alive. So we get this this quotation here from Jeremiah. Final section of chapter 2, the return from Egypt, again begins with a genitive absolute, from telutao, to finish something, to hence to die. So Herod, having died, behold, an angel of the Lord appears, historic present, in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Egethes, paralabe topaidion kaite metra autu, so arise, take with you the son or the boy and his mother, and go into the land of Israel. Tethneka senga hoi tsetun tes tempsuken tu paidiu. So participle, the ones seeking the life of the child, tethnekasin. This is a perfect. Now in biblical Greek you learn apothenesko, to die. That's a compound. The uncompounded verb thnesko is generally only used in poetry, but when you go to the perfect form of this one, the apo disappears and you just get as though it was formed from thnesko. So you get the perfect form tethnekasin, so have died. So those seeking the psuke, the life of the child, of the boy, have died. And he, that is Joseph, having arisen, paralaben, he took with him the child and his mother, and they came into the land of Israel. Having heard hoti that, Archelaus Basiliue tes Iudias antitopatros autu Herodoi ephobethe eke ap elthane. So when they heard that Archelaus rules, historic present, Judea, takes a genitive, in place of his father Herod, ephobethe, they were frightened to go there, to return there. So here the writer's giving us some explanation as to why they don't go back to where they started from, but they go up to Galilee. The Galilee was under the control of Antipas, who was the full brother of Archelaus. So when Herod died, the kingdom was split between the two brothers, Antipas and Archelaus, and I think later the Antipas takes control of the whole lot. I think Archelaus does something to upset the Romans, and Antipas ends up taking control back of the whole lot. But at this stage it's been split into two. Archelaus is in charge of Judea down south, and Antipas in charge of Israel up north. There's our krematisdo verb again. Having been warned, katona, in a dream, he withdrew into the regions, that's a neuter plural from meros here, top meros, third declension, into the regions of Galilee, and having come, he settled, from katoikeo, into the city being called Nazareth. Hopos, again we get this same, almost the same structure here. Hopos plerothe torethen diaton propheton, in order that that which had been said through the prophets might be fulfilled. And the hoti, either that or you can just take it as inverted commas. Klethesetai is a future passive from kaleo. There's your theta eta cluster for the future passive, for the passive, the sigma for the future, and then the ending. So he will be called Nazarios, a Nazarene. Now it's not clear exactly what this, there's no clear Old Testament text matching this, and the exact meaning of this is not clear at all. It's got nothing to do with the term Nazarite, as we see in the book of Judges, for example. Nothing to do with Nazarite. It may simply have been used to denote anyone who came from Nazareth. And you'll have to consult more learned commentaries on this if you wish to know further details. So that's the end of chapter 2. And in the next recording we'll start looking at John the Baptist in chapter 3.